Time. Who has time for anything? You have 5 minutes to speak now, it's going to be 9 o'clock, and I got to run here. We have Meyer down the hall, and then our lives are insanely busy. Busier than they've ever been. Not only are we insanely busy, our lives are constantly inundated with our responsibilities. We have our jobs, and we have our businesses, and our families, and in just any free time, we have the black hole of social media grasping at us. I saw this week that the astronauts in outer space watched the new Star Wars movie. It's insane. I had 2 thoughts. One, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. To be in space and watch Star Wars. And 2, how do they have 2 hours and 35 minutes? There's a group of people, we spend billions of dollars to fly into outer space, and they've got 2.5 hours. I live in Oak Southfield, in Oak Park, Michigan. I can't find 2.5 hours to do anything. Anything. And then I realized they didn't bring their kids with them, which is why they've got all the time in the world. We have no time, and we know the things that we'd like to do. We'd love to be able to sit down and watch Matthew Stafford and Golden Tate march into the end zone, but we can't, we just don't have the time. And we know the things that we should be doing, and we know we should be spending more time growing and learning and spending time with our families, and that's what we really value, but we have all these pressures of business, etc., just pushing on us, and things are calling, and then my phone is clicking and beeping, and I just got to check this thing. There's no end to the pressures, but there are those moments, those precious moments when everything is right, and you just, I can't describe the moments because, they're beyond description, they're beyond words, but I'll tell you one of them for me is Friday night, when I bless my children. Friday night, when you come home, and there's no more work to be done because it's Shabbos, and everything is calm, and everything is crazy at the same time, and the kids are running around, but there's nothing to be done. There are no pressures, and you get a moment with each child separately, and you give them a special blessing, and then I whisper in their ear, and I always tell my children 2 things. I love you. I am so proud to be your father. 2 things that I tell them. And we have a moment where time freezes. It's the most precious moments of my life. And I give my sons the following blessing. There's a priestly blessing, and I tell them, you should become like Ephraim and Manasseh. You should grow up to be like those 2 great people, the sons of Joseph, Ephraim and Manasseh. Which is really weird. Because you have so many people to choose from, and this is where you, for some reason, here you pick Ephraim and Manasseh. And we always have Moses, our teacher. We have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, our forefathers, the patriarchs. But here, we choose Ephraim and Manasseh. Why? Why these 2? So I tell my sons it's because, Yitzchak growing up, he was the first son, after Abraham. You had Yitzchak and Yishmael, and they always fought. And then Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Esau, they always fought. And then the tribes, they fought. Manasseh and Ephraim, they didn't fight. So you guys, sit down nicely at the table and get along with each other. But why Manasseh and Ephraim? Manasseh and Ephraim were the 2. Manasseh and Ephraim were children of the 12 tribes, but in a way they were their own, and they ended up being their own tribes. Yosef, their father, was a little bit like one of the fathers, like Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, but he was one of the 12 tribes. So he sort of stood on the border between the forefathers and the tribes, and Yosef stood on the border between the forefathers and the tribes. His 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, they were sort of like their own tribes, and they ended up being the tribe of Manasseh, the tribe of Ephraim. But you see, ever since Abraham discovered God, Abraham built that relationship. Yitzchak grew up in the home of Abraham. And Yaakov grew up in the home of Yitzchak. And the tribes, the 12 Shvatim, they grew up in the house of Yaakov. And they were in their own encampment, in their own lives, living really in their own little bubble. Things happen, but in general, that's what they were. But Manasseh and Ephraim, they were born and grew up in Egypt. In a foreign country, surrounded by foreign values. Not just the negative values of Egypt at the time, of idol worship and immorality, etc. But just the stupidity of being busy with sports, and the way you look, and just constant, what we say, narishkeit, wastes of time. And they were the ones who, anyway, even though they were surrounded by this, they were like the 12 tribes. Which means that they went through a life of being busy with their own version of social media and outside influences and constant stupidity, but they were able to concentrate on the real things, on the valuable things, and grow to be the most amazing people. So in those precious moments that I have with my children Friday night, when I myself are constantly fighting this battle, this struggle of the noise of the world versus what we know is real and what we want to grasp and hold on to, my prayer for them and to them, I exhort them and I tell them and I pray for them. They should be like Menashe and Ephraim. They should be able to have the ability to go through the noise of this world and still recognize what's real, recognize what's valuable, and come through it like Menashe and Ephraim did. Holy holies, these special people, that's my blessing to them. All of us can take that. That's what we take out of this week's Parshat. Yaakov says to Yosef, his son, he says to him, he's blessing his children, and he's sending, this is the blessing for our generations forever. This is the secret to that blessing. We're all going to be in exile. We're all going to be busy with this. Hold on to this, like Menashe and Ephraim. You can't go wrong.